This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome guys back to another episode of the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. My name is Chris Blades, and before I get started today, I want to make sure to take the time out to remind you, as always, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast, make sure you never miss an episode, make sure I was on top when we drop our latest stuff. Also, if you could please as well, give us a 5-star rating, write a nice review. Whenever this is your podcast out, it'd be very appreciated, very helpful. Allows you guys like or dislike the ways you can improve, all that fun stuff. And also, if you're on social media, we're on social media, so you can find us there: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss. And we had ourselves an interesting Monday night game, to say the least. I mean, it was competitive, obviously, which you always prefer out of your primetime games. The Sunday night game was competitive. Chiefs, Raiders. The Monday night game, Rams, Buccaneers. Did not disappoint in that regard either. And it left a lot of questions as a result. A lot of questions about the Rams. A lot of questions about the Buccaneers. And we will get to those questions in a moment. But first, obviously, I would imagine at this point, if you're watching, you will have either watched the game, which you should have, or heard about the game in some capacity. But still, we'll go through it just in case brothers missed it, and in case people, had better things to do on a Monday night in the middle of a pandemic, which, maybe you did, because not everybody can just be worried about watching football. I get it. That is why I'm here, to help you out in that regard. So, like I said, this game was competitive throughout. Started off, the offense was really on display in the first half. And it was really a tale of two halves. Like I said, the offense was on display in the first half, and the defenses, really showed up big time in the second. So first half, Bucs did the ball first. They punt. Then the Rams come down the field. They score. It was on a Robert Woods pass on 3rd and goal from at the Tampa Bay 4. Like I said, nice little drive put together by the Rams. 13 plays, 80 yards, took almost 8 minutes, basically half the quarter to get it done. Jared Goff was finding Cooper Kupp early and often, and that proved to be a theme throughout the game, which we will also touch on. Then the Bucs come back, put together a nice little drive of their own, 10 plays, 75 yards. That was the Mike Evans touchdown where he did his best A.J. Brown impersonation, if you will. Broke a couple tackles. The corners, non-Jalen Ramsey corners, because he wasn't on him during this play. And maybe if he was, it would have gone a little differently. But the non-Jalen Ramsey corners for the Rams, I think it was like Troy Hill and Darius Williams. I forget exactly what his name is. I should know this by now. It is Darius. All right, you noticed? Yeah, I had to double check. Darius Williams. Yeah, they were just too small for Mike Evans, which, hey, it is what it is. He big boyed them, got them into the end zone. Then Rams come back, 3 and out. The Bucs come back, put together another nice drive, 10 plays, 68 yards this time. It was a 2-yard touchdown run by Leonard Fournette this time after a pass interference penalty. Got them down the field. It was 3rd and 8. They were at the Rams 45. They got down there on a pass interference penalty by Jordan Fuller. I think they got down on the drive before, too, on pass interference penalty, if I remember correctly. I'm trying to remember exactly what happens. Oh, no, okay, so maybe I was... Oh, yeah, no, I was right. A 20-yard DPI on 3rd and 10 from the Tampa Bay 25. It didn't get them all the way down the field, but it got them, again, an extra 20 yards. and a new first down, which obviously made the difference. So like I said, that led to the Leonard Fournette touchdown. The Rams come back with a nice little touchdown drive of their own, 8 plays, 75 yards. This time to Van Jefferson in the end zone. Very solid rookie receiver. A lot of the rookie receivers this year have been very good, which, I mean, people thought it was going to be a receiver draft, so that's not completely shocking. But still, you always are impressed when young guys can come in and perform well. And Van Jefferson, again, he's not doing anything like crazy, but still, he's put together a nice, solid season when he's been called upon, which is, again, all you can really ask for from a young guy. Then the Bucs punted, and then what proved to be maybe the biggest drive of the game was the field goal drive the Rams were able to put together at the end, 8 plays, 61 yards. But it really, the big play was from the Rams' 45-yard line on 1st and 10 with 19 seconds left, and threw a 35-yard screen pass to Robert Woods, which, again, Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp had themselves a day. Mainly, they had themselves a day after the catch. Not that they weren't getting downfield or doing things, but, a lot of, I don't know the exact number, but a good portion of their yards came after the catch for both those guys. Like I said, the Bucs defense tightened up in the second half for sure, but in the first half, like I said, Cooper Kupp was shaking and baking people. Robert Woods, like I said, caught a little tunnel screen, went 35 yards. It looked like he was going to score. Like I said, because they called the play to get some yards and then get down because they didn't have any timeouts left at the time. But then, again, when he broke it the way he did, it was all right, well, I might as well try to get as much as I can so it's an easier field goal. And like I said, that they kicked the field goal there, and that proved to be important because they only won by 3 points. So, again, if they aren't able to do that, and again, that's good play from Sean McVay. Sean McVay definitely had himself a better first half than the second half, but overall, a very good game, calling it, scheming guys open, getting Jared Goff nice, easy throws, and getting his, like I said, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, the ball in space, and then letting them do their thing from there. The run game wasn't that effective in this one for either side, really. The Rams ran it 20 times for 37 yards. The Bucs ran 18 times, 42 yards. Like I said, neither team ran the ball efficiently, but Jared Goff had a much better day through the air. Like I said, until the second half, because the second half, that's when the defense started to pick it up a little bit. So the Bucs? Yeah. So the Bucs are on defense for us. They got an interception on Jared Goff. There was a screen pass they were trying to Darrell Henderson. Jared Goff threw it a little early. Darrell Henderson didn't see it, and it went right to JPP, who caught it. And like I said, got it inside the Rams 20 or 25. The Bucs didn't really do a whole lot after that. They kicked a field goal, but easy points. Now it's tied. Then the Rams put together another drive, and they're missing the field goal. Matt Gay, a former Bucs kicker. And then after that, all right, so then you feel, all right, the Bucs feeling themselves a little bit. And then this is when Tom Brady unfortunately started to unravel a little bit. He attempted a deep pass to Chris Godwin, which was, it was a mystery all night, him and the deep pass. Picked off by Jordan Fuller. It leads to a Rams touchdown on subsequent drive. This one was by Cam Akers on a 4-yard run. And then there was a bunch of punts back and forth. There's a turnover on downs in there as well from the Buccaneers. With about 8 minutes left on a 4th and 1, they tried to a little pick play, and Jalen Ramsey held his ground against Mike Evans superbly. So, like I said, he really couldn't push that far up the field, and that caused Godwin to cut his route a little bit tighter, and he ended up stumbling. And then it was a contested pass anyway, so they weren't able to get it. But then Jared Goff doing what Jared Goff does from time to time, turn the ball over. He gave it right back to them in 2 plays. This time, this was picked off by Jordan Whitehead, and it led to a Bucs touchdown. This time was by Chris Godwin. A nice little play. Caught it. He was wide open in a flat area. Caught it, jumped over a guy into the end zone. Very impressive play. So like I said, that happened. Now there's 4 minutes left, and this is where I know people got a little bit iffy on McVay, only because when they got down to the Bucs 24-yard line with 3 minutes left. They just ran they ran it once, had a short pass, then ran it again on 3rd down. More or less saying that, hey, look, Jared Goff, we're not going to have you lose the game for us. Which I get, based on, what had happened. Based on what had happened this game with the two picks. And I think he also, fumbled a snap, too. It wasn't really his fault. I think the center snapped it too early. But still, it was a fumble. That's on his record. But yes, like I said, McVay probably got a little conservative, which is like the funniest thing is that like he's very aggressive early in downs, but like his third and fourth down play calling and decision making from time to time is not that of a more innovative or advanced coach as you would expect him to be, being a younger guy and a fresher face in the NFL. Like he's not very aggressive on these down and distances situations, like especially late in games or like I said, fourth down, things like that. Overall, like over his tenure with the Rams, it's not really been him. So that's always been interesting aspect. And again, this is the same thing. You just like don't want Jared Goff to lose the game for you, which I get. So end up kicking the field goal, and then in 4 plays, Tom Brady ends up turning the ball over. Another deep pass, this time for Cameron Brate, intercepted by Jordan Fuller again. And that sealed it. So 27-24 victory. And like I said, this was an interesting game for the Bucs and for Tom Brady in particular, because if you are a person that believes that the Bucs can be a Super Bowl contending team, like if you think that genuinely, not saying you should or shouldn't, but if you do think that, then this game or games like this have to scare you. And I say that because this is now, you could argue, the 4th game where they've played a legitimate defense, them being the Bucs, and they've lost all 4 now. Like I said, they lost to the Bucs Saints twice. And like I said, the first time, that was the first game of the season, everyone's getting things figured out. And they said they got smoked the second time. They lost to the Bears, which they're not a good team, but the defense is solid. And then they lost to the Rams, who are a solid team and they have a very good defense. So, like I said, it's a story where if you can get some pressure on Brady, make him a little uncomfortable in the pocket, there is a good chance that you can beat them. Now, when you look at the rest of their schedule, they only have the Chiefs left that are good. They played the Falcons twice, the Lions, and the Vikings. So, not a good defense in the bunch. And they probably should lose to the Chiefs. But we'll see what happens. Like I said, that's not really the point. Because, all right, so say they lose to the Chiefs and win the other 4 games. They finish 11-5. Fine. They might not, like I said, they're going to be a wild card team. They're going to go on the road in the first round, maybe to the NFC East winner, maybe to somebody else. I guess it'll depend on how the other teams, like how the NFC West finishes, things like that. But still, if you want to, and mind you, Tom Brady has never made the playoffs as a wild card team. They said that on NFL Live today. Was unaware, but again, it makes sense. They're winning the division every year. They don't really need to. But still, if you're gonna get to a Super Bowl, you have to beat teams in the playoffs with good defenses. And the Bucs have not shown they can do that because Tom Brady can't hold up under pressure, A. And B, he can't throw the ball down the field anymore. And I mean, it is what it is. He's older, so I'm not saying it's a shocker, but I think they said he was like 1 for 8 for like 19 yards on throws, like 15 plus yards down the field in this game. Like, who are you going to beat not being able to throw the ball down the field? Now, again, they were able to do some underneath stuff. A lot of it was to Antonio Brown on like little screens or like curl routes or like nothing, like I said, everything within 15 yards, line of scrimmage and things like that. But I'm saying if you can't threaten people down the field, especially when you have 3 legitimate number 1 quality or caliber receivers, that's going to be an issue. Like I said, they don't run the ball effectively enough on offense again, so they can become one-dimensional as they were. They threw the ball like 50 times, or just about 50. I think it was like officially 48 times they ended up throwing the ball in this, or Tom Brady ended up throwing the ball in this game. And he only ended up with 216 yards. 4.5 yards per attempt. Like, that's terrible. 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Only got sacked once, but he got, let me see how many times he got hit. I knew that was more than once. He got hit 5 times, like I said. Was under pressure a little bit more than that. But still, like I said, it's the pressure thing is going to be an issue for the Bucs and Tom Brady, and the downfield passing is going to be an issue for the Bucs and Tom Brady. Like I said, they have not shown yet, not to say they can't, but they have not shown yet that they can beat a playoff caliber defense during the regular season. And that's going to be a problem. That's all you're going to face in the playoffs is playoff caliber defenses, more or less. Unless they get the NFC East winner, and even that, like they were in close with the Bucs. Like if Daniel Jones could hit Slayton or some of the other guys on deep passes, like the Bucs probably lose that game too. And the story of that one is the Giants don't have a bad defense. It's not the Rams, it's not the Saints, it's not the Bears, but like it's not a bad defense. So again, that's kind of the story, is that like if they play a good defense, Tom Brady is going to struggle, and there's a chance they win or they lose. Like I said, their defense is pretty solid as well. So like I said, they're not going to just get blown out or anything like that, generally speaking, unless it's the Saints. But still, like I said, that's going to be an issue for them moving forward. So again, if you're believing that the Bucs can be the best team in the NFC and represent them in the Super Bowl, this is definitely a cause for concern for you, because maybe you have temporary expectations on what the Bucs will be with Tom Brady as the quarterback. And plus, now he's turning the ball over too. Like again, the reason why they moved on from Jameis to him is because James turned the ball over too much. Now he's only thrown 9 interceptions. But still, like I said, the whole point of the switch was that, like, hey, we're not going to have a quarterback that's going to lose us a game with turnovers. And Tom Brady can't throw the ball downfield accurately, and every time he tries to, it's a turnover. That's going to be a problem moving forward. So like I said, we'll see kind of how that goes, and if maybe as they get more, like he's been with Mike Evans and Godwin. Godwin's been in and out of the lineup. So like I said, as they get his chemistry together, maybe it'll work better. But like I said, some of the throws he had down the field, they didn't even seem to be on the same page, him and the receiver. So like I said, that's a problem, to say the least. And like I said, going over the Rams side, the Rams, I think, are now the leader in the NFC West, if I remember correctly. Double check. Yes, they are. Them and the Seahawks are both 7-3. But due to, I don't even know, I guess division record or conference record, they are the top seed in the division for now. Like I said, this is what you think I don't even what you think this is the Rams could be, but this is reminiscent a little bit of their Super Bowl team, where again they don't have the running game that they had. That's going to be their issue, is that like if they can't run the ball in the playoffs, you're going to have to count a lot on Jared Goff, and that's not a bad thing, but like also Jared Goff will turn the ball over. So like that's a little scary. And as we saw at the end of the game, Rashawn McVay was like, Jared Goff don't lose us the game. So like I said, that's going to be a problem. It's going to be the Jimmy G effect, kind of, where like you can get to a Super Bowl with this guy, but like, can you win it? Debatable. But like I said, the offense, if Jared Goff is getting the ball out of his hands and letting Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods and those guys do their thing, they both had 10 catches. They both had over 100 yards in this game. I think they both have it over 130, not even just 100. Let me not shortchange them. I think they both had over 130 in this game. So like I said, they looked sensational. And again, we knew that already. They're one of the better duos in the league. Yeah, Kupp had 145, 11 for 145, and Woods had 12 for 130 and a touchdown. So like I said, just getting the ball in their hands, letting them do their thing. It seems like a smart way to run business. For the Rams, like I said, don't have Jared Goff trying to do too much back there in the pocket. And then again, if they can play defense like this, where they can force turnovers, they can get after the quarterback, and they can play like solid enough defense, where like I said, some of their issues were because of Jared Goff turnovers. Like I said, the Bucs scored 10 points off turnovers. Just like I said, when they had to drive and do real things, they were only able to muster 17 points, and a lot of that was in the first half. Like I said, they had 14 in the first half and finished with 24 for the game, the Bucs did. Which again goes on the thing we kind of talked about, which is that the Rams continue to be a very good second half team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So like I said, they can continue that and they can play that level of defense. That'll be big. And like I said, maybe they could be a team that competes for the division title. Now, their schedule was a little bit tougher. Down the stretch, they play the Cardinals twice, which again, we'll see how that goes. And they also play the Seahawks again. And they play the Niners this week, which they should beat them. They play the Patriots, and then they play the Jets. So again, Cardinals twice and Seahawks, though that'll be the real test. Is all right, can they beat the Cardinals at least once, if not twice? And can they sweep the Seahawks? Like I said, they beat them last week. Can they do it again? And that'll be the story. And like I said, and a lot of that will be probably on the back of that defense if it continues. So again, we'll see how it all plays out. But definitely a good win for the Rams, a quality win for the Rams. And like I said, now they control their own destiny in the division, if you will. Like I said, they continue to win. They beat the Seahawks. They beat the Cardinals. Niners, like I said, the teams on their schedule. Now they're looking at potentially a 1 seed and, like I said, a home playoff game. Now, if they drop a couple of those games, now we're talking about them having to go on the road, which, again, not that they can't do because their defense probably will travel. But, like I said, you're potentially putting Jared Goff in, like, Green Bay or even Philly or New York or like Washington in the winter. Like, I don't know how he would play in the cold weather because he never really had to in the playoffs. Yeah, I said he played in what? He played in L.A. his first year when he lost the first year. Then the next year he played in LA again, and then he played in New Orleans. So like I say, he's never really played in a cold weather playoff game. So he's a California kid. Not to say that he'll play poorly, but again, you never know until it happens. So again, this is a very interesting game and a lot to talk about coming out of it. So speaking of that, are we back at square one in the NFC now? Like again, we've kind of talked about, we'll touch on it a few weeks ago, how there's no real best team in the NFC. And with the Bucs losing, many people thought was the best team. Are we back at that? And like in terms of like who is the best team in the NFC? So like I said, I'll give my opinion on who I think it is, but I feel like we're back at the discussion of like who actually is it. But yeah, we'll discuss that right after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
The NFC. Like I said, it's much, much different than the AFC and where things stand in the hierarchy of teams and things like that, just because in the AFC, it's very clearly, even though the records don't reflect this, it's very clearly the Chiefs, step down, the Steelers, and then everybody else. Who everybody else is kind of is kind of dependent on how you feel about their respective teams. Like again, you might have the Colts up there, though again their defense didn't look that great against the Packers, but also the Packers have Aaron Rodgers, so there is that. You got the Titans up there, you got the Bills up there, maybe even probably not the Browns, but they are 7-3, so there is that. So like I said, you got some teams up there that aren't the Chiefs and the Steelers, but like it's very even like the Raiders. You could argue that the Raiders may very well be the third best team in the AFC. I'm not going to go that far and say that, but again, there is no other team that has beaten the Chiefs so far this year, and there probably won't be. Like again, we'll see what happens with the Bucs. They play the Dolphins again in Miami. They play the Saints in New Orleans, so like there's a chance they could lose those games. But also, like, they've lost, one game in 2020? Like, in the entire calendar year of 2020, so it's hard for us to say that they will lose again. Like I said, they've already beaten the Bills. I guess it's really the only other good. They've already beaten the Ravens. Yeah, those are probably the only real playoff teams that'll be. Well, now obviously they beat the Raiders. But I'm saying, like, no team has played them tougher. Obviously, no team beat them. And then they literally needed a last-second drive in order to win that game. Well, I take that back. The Chargers did. The Chargers took them to overtime. I forgot about that. And Justin Herbert's first start. And, again, had Anthony Lynn and them not got a little conservative in overtime, where they decided to punt on, what was it? It was 4th and 1. I guarantee it's a 34-yard line, but you give the ball up to Patrick Mahomes. You knew you were probably going to lose anyway, and shocker, they lost. So there's that. But yeah, so apparently the AFC West can play them tough. Anybody else, doesn't work out that well. Like I said, the two closest games they played, well, 3 closest games where they lost the one, are against the Raiders and the Chargers. So, like I said, you could argue the Raiders could be the team to compete with them, because again, they apparently, if Derek Carr's going to play this way, have the offense to keep up with them, which I mean, you don't want to get in a track meet with the Chiefs, but again, when you think back to that Rams Monday night game, like that's kind of how they beat them. Like you make enough defensive plays. Like I said in the first game, they got the interception, all of them. That was big. So I said you make enough, like you keep up with them offensively, you make a defensive play here or there to help turn the tide, and then boom, you kind of get a win. Like I said, much easier said than done, but not impossible. And it seems impossible, but it's not. So like I said, the Raiders apparently seem very well equipped to compete with them. Like I said, I don't know if any other team has that currently in the NFC. Like again, maybe the Bills if Josh Allen's on his game, but we already saw that they lost that game. That was in bad weather. Like maybe the Steelers if like again they got the defense to get some pressure and get some turnovers. And then again if Big Ben's playing his best, they have the offense to compete with them. Like I said, Titans, Colts, like Titans maybe, but like I said, they're gonna have to do the thing they try to do, whereas like the ball control. Like I said, once the Chiefs get rolling, you got to be able to keep up with them points wise, and I don't think the Titans really are built to do that per se. Same thing with the Ravens. So like I said, this wasn't an AFC conversation, but like I said, it's very clear that there's a top team, a second team, and then like I said, generally speaking, everybody else. You flip over to the NFC side of things, and that is not the case at all. Now, currently, the Saints are the number 1 seed. I believe. Let me just double check because I like to give you facts on here. So yeah, the Saints are currently the number 1 seed at 8-2, followed by the Rams, Packers, and Seahawks all at 7-3. Then you got the Bucs at 7-4 and the Cardinals at 6-4. So those are your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 playoff teams, and then whoever wins the NFC East, which compiles 4 out of the 5 bottom teams in the NFC. And it tells you exactly how bad they are. And we'll talk about that in a second when we talk about the Thanksgiving Day games. But whoever wins the NFC East is screwed draft wise. Now again, you win the division, that's fun in games, blah blah blah. But we'll talk about where the NFC East teams are, and relative to where the division leader, I should say, is in the draft order right now. It's disastrous, especially for teams that are objectively bad. Winning division is literally probably the worst thing you want to do this year. In general, you probably want to win, but it's the worst thing you can do this year. Like I said, we'll talk about that when we talk about the Thanksgiving Day games. Excuse me. So like I said, if you go through, we'll leave the Bucs out of it because again, we kind of talked about their flaws. And even kind of the Cardinals out of it because they're not, they still got some work to do. Like I said, they beat the Rams a couple times, and again, they're back in the mix of things when it comes to the cream of the crop in the NFC. Like I said, as of right now, probably a little premature to have them lumped in with the best of the best in the conference. So, like I said, we'll start with the Saints, and then we'll go Rams, Packers, Seahawks in terms of their where I think they are, and kind of the pros and cons of them being, or not the pros and cons, but then the thought process behind them potentially being the best team in the conference. So you start with the Saints. Obviously their biggest drawback, if you will, is Drew Brees. One, his health, because again, 11 fractured ribs, is kind of wild. And also, how is he going to be able to throw the ball down the field? Because like I said, much like the issue with the Bucs and Tom Brady, not to say they can't get by with a lack of downfield passing game, but again, it's going to be hard to beat better teams and better offenses that way, where your offense is so limited in what it can and can't do due to the play of the quarterback. Again, they have good players. They have Alvin Kamara who can work things out, underneath. Michael Thomas is a very good receiver. He can run the short intermediate routes that don't have to go deep down the field, that Drew Brees should still be able to hit. He looked good last game with Taysom Hill in there against Falcons, but still he looked good last game. So that's a plus. But again, I don't think anyone expects them to go anywhere, and maybe we'll be wrong. But again, if Taysom Hill's in there or has to play in multiple playoff games or even a playoff game, you probably don't expect them to win. And like I said, with Drew Brees coming back from the injury with the ribs, and also, like I said, just him being older, not being able to push the ball down the field the same way he could. Again, he never had the strongest arm, but again, at least he would. He could attempt that and be consistent with that. Like now, he's really not. That's not where he's at with his game. Like I said, when you face better teams, a limited offense is going to be easier to defend. So like I said, that's their biggest drawback, because if the defense is going to play the way it has over the last few weeks, then they're going to be in good shape. Like I said, they've given up, since the Bears, they've given up 3, 13, and 9. And the Bucs and the Falcons have very good offensive talent. The Niners, they're banged up, so that's understandable. But the Bucs and the Falcons have good offensive talent. And like I said, the Saints put 8 sacks on them this past weekend. And then in the Bucs game, let's see how many times they sacked Brady. They sacked him 3 times. But like I said, it held him to a passer rating of 40, a QBR of 4.6. Like I said, no turnovers. Or no, take that back, 3 interceptions. I meant to say no touchdowns. But yeah, 3 interceptions off them. So again, if their defense is going to play like that for the rest of the season and into the playoffs, then as long as Drew Brees and it doesn't get in the way, then they'll be fine. Like I said, that you're asking for your defense to play like the 85. Oh, not the 85 Bears. Everybody says that. Like I guess the Legion of Boom, you could argue, but with a better pass rush. Because again, not their pass rush was ever bad, but like their thing was their secondary. I said you have the good secondary and the pass rush to boot with it. Like I said, Trey Hendrickson, I think, is like the league or tied for the league leading like sacks now, which is like wild. Because again, not really a very heralded guy on the Saints like defensive line. Obviously, they have Cam Jordan and some other guys, but Trey Henderson has been great this year. And I guess the best thing for them is that their schedule is very weak. Like I said, they play the Chiefs, who are the only team above 500 that they play the rest of the season. So, like I said, they're currently 8-2. They're a game up on everybody. And like I said, with the Chiefs being the only game, they're probably not going to be favored to win. If they find a way to win that one, then there's a chance they could finish out the season 14-2, like at worst 13-3 if they like slip up in one of these random games, or that they rest guys last game of the season, things like that. So like I said, they have a very good chance, and I think they would be they're a legitimate case to be the number 1 team in the conference right now. You said the Rams we just talked about. Jared Goff is playing relatively well again, had a couple turnovers, which you kind of want to control, and they have a tough schedule. Like I said, play the Cardinals twice and the Seahawks down the stretch of the last 6 games. So we'll see kind of where they're at. But again, with their defense, it's hard to argue against them being one of the best teams in the conference. Like I said, if that defense is going to play that well throughout the rest of the season into the playoffs, then they're going to be able to beat just about anybody if Jared Goff is at the top of his game, which he was for most of the Bucs game, and he has been for most of the season. Like I said, he hasn't been that bad, or at least he hasn't taken a step back like he kind of did, you could argue, last year. Like I said, he's gotten it together a little bit. So that's good, but that's what you want to see if you're a Rams fan. What's he at? He's at 16 touchdowns, 8 interceptions for the year. So, again, not too bad. Averaging almost 290 yards per game, so 95 passer rating. So, again, not nothing crazy. The run game, like I said, still leaves a little something to be desired. And that's probably going to be the big issue, that they're very play-action heavy and like very run-oriented in terms of like their play designs and things like that. And if they can't run the ball in the playoffs, like Jared Goff not going to throw for 400 yards every game. I would say that he can't, because again, he almost did against the Bucs. Almost set the record for, I think, completions on a Monday night game too, or something like that. But still, you play better defense. You play the Saints. You play. This is really about it. The Saints, because they have the other good defense or you play the Bucs again. Like I said, there's no guarantee the offense will look that explosive every time if brothers can actually tackle Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods. So I said they have a legitimate case. You go down to the Packers. Their case is a little weaker, mainly because their defense is a little weaker. And also they've lost now to the Bucs. They beat the Saints earlier in the year, so there is that. But also the Bucs, the Vikings, and the Colts now, which isn't exactly like the greatest lineup of losses to have. But again, they're no team. Their schedule down the stretch isn't that bad. Depending on assuming they beat the Bears twice, which you never know. They play the Eagles, Lions, Panthers, and Titans, which the Titans are a good team. Like I said, they only play one team above 500 currently. And like I said, we'll see where the Bears are at by week 17. I'm going to say the schedule is not that difficult. Like I said, their defense is definitely a little bit more on the wait and see kind of side. Like I said, it's not like it's been terrible this year, but like it hasn't been like that great, and that's kind of what would scare you a little bit. Like again, look at the Saints, like I said, look at the Rams, they have great defenses. Clearly. Like the Bucs, I mean, and the Bucs too, if Tom Brady can not turn the ball over and learn and continue to throw the ball down the field. But I said the Packers, don't have a great defense. And they really don't have a pass rush outside of Zadarius Smith. Like Preston Smith hasn't really been doing much this year. They don't have anyone above 2.5 sacks except for Zadarius Smith. So again, if he kind of gets shut down, their pass rush is non-existent. Secondary, not bad, but still leaves a little something to be desired. And like I said, they gave up 37 points in overtime, mind you, but 37 points to a Colts offense that or 34 points, excuse me, that is all right. Like it's nothing special. So, like I said, that would be a little worrisome. But again, it's probably. But like I said, with Aaron Rodgers out there, you're never really that worried because Aaron Rodgers, he can beat a lot of teams on his own. So that's like I said, you have Aaron Rodgers, so that's a plus on your side. But again, the defense isn't the caliber of some of the other teams or some of the other elite teams in the NFC. So that would be my concern for the Packers. And like the Seahawks, obviously, you know what their issue is. Their defense is terrible. Now, it played better last week against the Cardinals. It's probably going to play very well against the Eagles this weekend. I mean, not this weekend. They play Monday night. Then they also play the Giants. They play the Jets. They play Washington. They play the Rams again. They play the Niners. So they're not going to really face that many good offenses left, throughout the rest of the season. So the defense is probably going to be like, oh, it's improved. Like, it's going to look better. And then you get to the playoffs and it's like, oh, it's still bad. So like I said, that's kind of going to have to see. Like, if they don't improve towards the end of the season, that's definitely a red flag. But if they do improve, then like I said, you could use the opponent argument against them. Like, oh, well, who are they playing? Like, you're playing multiple teams that will be picking in the top 10 of the draft, most likely. So, like I said, that's not a very good indicator. Like I said, the indicator will be the Cardinals game because they played better in the Cardinals game, and even the Rams game, they held them to 23. So the defense is playing better, which is what you would like to see. Like I said, it's still you have to continue to see that throughout the rest of the season. Like I said, the 2-game sample size is not really indicative of what the first 8 games have been, where I said they were giving up 30 points basically in their sleep. Like I said, Russ was doing his best to bail them out. And like I said, that's the other point, is that like Russ has been doing the thing where he's bailing them out, but also now he's turning the ball over. So, like, if he's going to continue to turn the ball over, and that's going to be a problem. Now, I'm trying to remember, I don't think he turned the ball over in this year. He didn't turn the ball over in the Cardinals game, which was important. Like I said, he'd had some struggles with the turnovers leading up into that game. So like I said, we have to see which Russ do we get. Do we get beginning of the season Russ or kind of middle of the season Russ, where beginning of the season Russ, he was on fire, was hitting everybody, was making all the throws, wasn't, like I said, was taking care of the ball. And then the middle of the season, he got a little bit more reckless with some of his decisions, some of his throws, and things like that. So that kind of be the interesting thing to see as the last 6 games go. Like, which Russ do we get? Because if you get good Russ, then, like I said, that's good enough to compete with a lot of teams in the conference. But if you get the Russ where, again, his decision-making is a little shoddy and he's, like, turning the ball over 2-3 times, that's going to, like I said, with that defense, if it's not playing better, it's going to be tough for them to beat. Tough for them to beat the elite-level teams once we get into the playoffs. So, all that being said, I would say right now, if I had to pick, I would go Saints, who, again, were a team I thought could be the best preseason. Like I said, I'd probably go Saints and then probably Rams 2 at this point. Then I guess Packers 3 and Seahawks 4, just because I got to see more about that defense. And again, we're not really going to find out too much against the Eagles this weekend because the Eagles, surprise, surprise, are terrible. So that's not really going to be a good indicator. Like I said, then they play the Giants, who are a little bit better than the Eagles, but still not anything special. It's in Seattle too. Then they play the Jets and then they play Washington. So we won't really find out anything again about them until the Rams game, week 16, which is a long time between now and then. But still, that's probably the next best time you're going to be able to see what this Seahawks team is, assuming they don't lose any of those games in between there. Because if they do, then that's a completely separate point, or a separate story we're going to have to discuss later on. So like I said, they'll probably be 4 just because of the defense, but if Russ gets it together, doesn't turn the ball over, and that defense continues to improve like it has been the last couple of games, then maybe we're on to something a little bit. But like I said, Saints and Rams are probably the two best teams in the conference if I had to pick at this moment today, right now. But again, peaches on. You guys may agree, you may disagree. And if you do, again, feel free to let me know how you feel. Tell me maybe you think it's the Packers, maybe you think it's the Cardinals. Like I said, shoot. As long as you don't think somebody in the NFC East, we're in good shape. But yeah, so we can discuss that on social media if you feel free to reach out to us there. So, speaking of the best team, after we come back here again, it's still early in free agency. There's still maybe a couple more moves or things to be done. But I thought, again, you look back at where the top teams in each conference, East and Western Conference in the NBA are, and the other teams and what they've done to improve both. Like I said, maybe they've gotten better, maybe they've gotten worse, things like that. Like, if you're in the West, would you take the Lakers or the Field? And if you're in the East, would you take the Bucs or the Field? Obviously, the Bucs didn't make it to the finals, but they were the 1 seed, so that's why I'm going to do this for that sake. So, like I said, we'll discuss that right after the break. Stay right there.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we're back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So, we shall start in the West in terms of, again, would you rather take the Lakers or the Field to win the West? If you were picking right now, again, assuming health and everything else. But if you want to pick a team right now, who would you probably take? So, we'll start with the Lakers. Obviously, we talked a little bit about them on the last pod, but obviously they have lost some players. Like I said, no more Danny Green, no more Dwight, no more JaVale, no more Rondo. That was the other guy I was thinking of. No more Rondo. But they have replaced those guys with Dennis Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell, Marcus Saul, and then I'm trying to think, is there anybody else? And Wesley Matthews. And you would argue, depende. You could argue that they are about the same, if not better, in every one of those swaps. Like I said, you swap out Danny Green for Wesley Matthews. You swap out JaVale for Marcus Saul. You swap out Dwight for Montrez. Swap out Rondo for Schroeder. Now, again, each of those guys bring something different. Like I said, Rondo brought that leadership and obviously playoff experience. And again, he's just a pesky defender, obviously good passer, facilitator of the offense, things like that, and also knocked down his threes in the playoffs. Schroeder, not that he's in that, but again, he's more of an offensive player who can be. I mean, he's not necessarily a terrible defender, obviously, but he's not, like I said, he's not necessarily locked down or anything like that. But again, he can be annoying, to say the least, which again is kind of what Rondo was. Not the same facilitator, things like that. Much more of an offensive scorer. But again, you got guys like Anthony Davis and things like that. You probably don't got to worry about defense too tough. Montrez for Dwight, again, same thing. Montrez got played off the court against the Nuggets, though. Again, he was late to the bubble because of death in the family, so we'll see how he does with, like I said, not having to worry about that. We'll see how a lot of people do without the bubble. Like I said, Dwight was obviously a very strong defensive presence, made things tough for Jokic in their series. And obviously, like Bam and stuff like that, they were banged up a little bit down there once they got to the Heat. But like I said, definitely made things tough for Jokic in the series against the Nuggets, and was probably a big reason why Jokic was not say neutralized, but again, he wasn't as impactful as he was against the Clippers and things like that. Or at least not every game he wasn't. Now, obviously, he's a great player. He had his moments, but wasn't as impactful every game, got in foul trouble some games, things like that. A lot of that was because of Dwight. I said Montrez, not going to do that. But he will be a very solid piece through 82 games in the regular season. Offensive scorer, like I said, their bench scoring at least is going to improve drastically, you would think, because again, you got the two best 6 men in the league last year in Trez and Dennis Schroeder coming off your bench now. So I said that should make a difference. Wesley Matthews, again, another guy who shooted 3-ball consistently well, but again, was probably a little bit better defender than Danny Green was last year. So as long as he continues to be that, and unlike Danny Green, can be more consistent from 3, I said that was Danny Green's biggest issue, especially, and that's kind of what it was, same thing in Toronto, is that like he'd have his moments where he's like, oh, he's knocking out everything. Then there'd be, or not everything, but just like a regular Danny Green clip. Then there'd be the moments where he was like not knocking down anything, and that was the problem, is that when he wasn't knocking down anything, it was like he wasn't really bringing a whole lot to the team. And even like the defense was like kind of like, you're probably better off with like Caruso or somebody else in there, or Rondo or whoever. So like I said, if Wesley Matthews, even if he's not knocking down the 3 all the time, if he can still play the solid defense, because also they got to make up for the loss of Avery Bradley as well. I forgot about him. So like I said, they're going to need some more defense in there. Like I said, Wesley Matthews should do that, and then you swap in Marc Gasol for JaVale, even though Marc Gasol was looking a little pre-washed in the Celtics series. Like I said, at least the defensive intellect that he has in terms of getting people set up and like the rotations and things like that, like that'll be big. Plus, he's a good facilitator, which obviously JaVale McGee, that's not what he's doing. And he's also a floor spacer in theory, because again, he really wasn't knocking down shots like that in the playoffs. But at least in theory, you have to defend him out there. JaVale McGee not being out by the 3-point line ever. So like I said, that's clogging the paint, making things tougher on AD, tougher on LeBron. So like I said, just having him on the floor spaces it out a little bit. So like I said, you could argue they got better after winning the championship for the Lakers. Now you go down to everybody else. The Clippers, obviously lost Doc Rivers. They, have to deal with some of that, the fallout of that, see what Ty Lue, how he does handling these personalities. Again, he obviously handled LeBron and Kyrie and things like that. Well, they won a championship, but again, that's not exactly what he's going to be dealing with now. Good, whether that's good or bad. And also, again, they lost Montrez and got to find a way to replace him. Again, they did bring in Serge, so you would think, in theory, that would be enough. And again, the different skill sets, the different mindsets in terms of what they need, what they want to do, and what they need to do for a team. You could probably argue that's probably a better fit for them in terms of what the team needs. In terms of, like I said, you probably, with Serge, you got to get another guy who can space the floor. You can get another guy who can knock down threes. You get a guy who can play some defense. Montrez not doing any of those 3 things outside of scoring. Like you said, he's scoring, but like you said, defense, and then like again, he's not really a shooter. So like he's really just a pick and roll guy. Where again, not that Serge can't do that, but again, he can pop out to the foul line of center. He can pop out to the 3-point line. And I said then that makes things more difficult to defend for an offense. So again, you have to see like kind of where they're at, and like I said, how they deal with this season. Because again, you could argue that if they don't get it done this year, that Kawhi and PG, or at least one of them, is gone. Most likely Kawhi is gone after the season because they both have opt-outs. So that's going to be kind of the thing hanging over everybody's head, is that like, oh, like this could be like they could all blow up after this year. Well, I mean, it kind of already blew up before, but you get the point. Like it could all kind of blow up after this year. So like I said, they got to see how they deal with that. Like I said, clearly some of the relationships and the chemistry in the locker room was not that good. I think that's another thing. You're going to need to make sure you have that chemistry built. Obviously, a lot of these guys will be back for the second time together. But, again, a lot of the issues were that they didn't really play together that much pre-bubble. So they're trying to get all the chemistry worked out in the bubble. And then, again, guys were in and out. I said Montrez and Lou were late getting in. Pat Bev was in and out of the lineup. Things like that. So you got to figure out what to do there in terms of chemistry-wise. Like, are you still going to be managing Kawhi's minutes? Are you going to manage Paul George? Like, is that going to cause any rift within the players that are playing more consistently? So like I said, you got to figure all those things out as you go along with Ty Lue. And then again, look at the Nuggets. They brought back Millsap, but again, lost Jeremy Grant, lost Torrey Craig, who were obviously more... I mean, Jeremy Grant did some scoring as well, but there was the 2 defensive guys. And haven't really, if I remember correctly, haven't really found a way to replace them yet. Though, obviously, Michael Porter Jr. Comes back and is good. and especially on defensive end. And that completely changes the calculus for the entire Nuggets franchise. Because now you have a guy that can get out there as a walking bucket, can get you 20 a night easily. And if he's just not completely lost on defense, which again, he had his moments there during the playoffs where he didn't look absolutely lost. He had a lot of moments where he did, but had a lot of moments where he didn't. So if he can work on that and be that, where he's at least like competent, doesn't have to be good, doesn't have to be exceptional. Just has to be competent on defense. Like know where he's supposed to be, rotate right. Like I said, keep the guy in front of you from time to time, like things like that. If he can do that, like I said, then the entire trajectory of the Nuggets as a franchise is completely different than it was this time last year. Which again is kind of what it was before, because it was like, hey, if Frank Porter Jr. is good, like we'll be good. But like I said, now you know that he's good offensively. If he can be good defensively and be able to stay on the floor in crucial moments, like I said, that helps out their offense. It takes the pressure off of guys like Jokic and like Murray, and also getting guys like Gary Harris back for full time healthy, and like Will Barton back and things like that. Like there are other people that they had to add back in to this team, obviously. But like I said, losing Jeremy Grant is definitely going to be, I'm not saying the biggest blow, obviously, because again, Jeremy Grant was a solid piece, but he's not like, the brother's not like LeBron, he's not Giannis, he's not AD, he's not like that caliber of player. He's a very solid player to have on any championship caliber team. I mean, I believe the Lakers even the Lakers probably wanted him too. So like I said, most teams would have wanted a guy like Jeremy Grant. So you gotta see about that. Also again with some of the other teams, the Rockets, who knows what they're gonna look like. Obviously they added Boogie too. Shout out to him. He's back in the league. Obviously he was hurt last year, but now he's back in the league. They added Christian Wood. So two bigs that can facilitate, that can create their own shot a little bit and can also shoot, which is something they didn't have before, obviously, because it was Clint Capella, and then last year they really didn't have a center. But then you got to see kind of how that works with them and the whole chemistry, and if they're going to blow the team up or whatever there. OKC is obviously rebuilding, so you don't got to worry about them. Utah didn't really do a whole lot. We'll see kind of what happens there. Obviously brought Jordan Clarkson back, if I remember correctly. You just got to see if they can find someone to be consistent outside of Donovan Mitchell offensively. That's really what it's up to. The Mavs, Kristaps is going to be, I think, on the sideline to begin the year. And we'll see what the loss of Steven Silas does for them. And again, same thing with speaking of Steven Silas, you got to see what the Rockets look like with a new coach. Because obviously, D'Antoni was there before. Don't know what they're going to look like under Steven Silas. But again, you got to see how that kind of plays out. Like I say, see about the loss of him, and also, like I said, just KP, just and his health in general. Because like I said, if he can't stay healthy, then like this team is not their ceiling is significantly lower. But if he can and he is healthy throughout the playoffs, and again that helps their offense, that helps their defense, that helps other team in general. So like that's their biggest thing. Is like, can Kristaps stay healthy for the entirety of the season, more or less? Obviously, he's going to miss the start. It sounds like, so that's going to be a problem. But again, that's their biggest issue there. Looking at the Blazers, like I said, they added some pieces. Again, they just getting healthy. Having Nurkic for a full year, having Zach Collins for a full year, bringing in Covington to help out the offense and the defense. That's nice. Again, hoping to get continued improvements from guys like Gary Trent Jr. and Anthony Simmons. And like I said, bringing Melo back just for some vet presence off the bench. Because again, I would imagine he's not starting. Like I said, they made some solid additions in my own personal opinion. So I said they'll probably be all right. Obviously, Memphis will still be growing. Same thing with the Pelicans; they'll be growing. Obviously, added, and also I forgot they brought Ronnie Hood back for the Blazers. He wasn't healthy last year; he got hurt, and then they brought Kanter back as well. So like I said, they've added some pieces to that team that already made they lost in the first round. They made the playoffs last year. I say Grizzlies will still be trying to improve, and we'll see what's up with Jaren Jackson. Like I said, how much time he's going to miss to begin the season, or just in general. Like I said, that's going to be a big issue for them because he's their second best player in my opinion. So like I said, that's a tough loss. Him and Justice Winslow are respected to miss the start of the season. So see how long the start of the season is. Obviously, the Suns are going to be better than they were. They added Chris Paul. They added Jay Crowder. Sarge came back, but they lost Oubre. So yeah, like I said, they drafted Jalen Smith. So like I said, they're gonna have to see where they're gonna be at. But again, they'll be improved. The Spurs are gonna be the Spurs, I think, whatever that means. The Kings obviously lost Bogdanovich, so we'll see kind of where they're going. Then also, like, talk about the Pelicans to be better. The Wolves will have D'Lo for a full year, so that should be nice. Plus Anthony Edwards now and Cat, who had one of the, if not the best shooting big man year in history of the sport. But like I said, no one cared because they were sorry. So there's that. Golden State will be better, obviously, because they have Steph healthy for a full year, but no Clay, Wiggins, and stuff like that. So basically, every team will be at least somewhat trying to win outside of OKC, really. So again, you could argue like that's a lot of teams to choose from that could be competing and eventually surpass the Lakers. But in my opinion, if everybody's healthy, it's still the Lakers that have come out of the West at this point. Like I said, they haven't gotten worse. You could argue they've gotten better. And I don't know if anyone else has made up significant ground on them. Like, some teams have improved, some teams have taken steps back, but I don't think anyone's made up enough ground to be like, oh, I think they're at the level of the Lakers. Like I said, people were talking about like the Clippers being the second best team or the biggest threat, which they kind of were last year. And that may very well be true. That they may very well be the biggest threat to them, just like they were last year. But you got to see it. At this point, like, the Clippers are a wait-and-see type of team. Like, all right, we've seen them be good in the regular season. You've heard all the noise, blah, blah, blah. Can you get it done in the playoffs? That's basically where we're at with the Clippers, in my opinion. At least that's where I'm at. So, yes, like I said, if they show they can get it done, get to the conference finals, compete with the Lakers, all right, cool. But if they fizzle out again in the second round, like I said, it's hard for me to have faith in them to be that second best team when we literally just saw what happened with them in this past playoffs to a team of the Nuggets that on paper they should be better than. But like I said, I don't know if it's coach, I don't know if it's the players, whatever. But I said a lot of the players are back, the coach isn't back. See if that makes a difference. But yeah, we'll kind of see how that goes. Like I said, I still think I would take the Lakers over the field. But when you go to the East, I know we're talking about the West. We go to the East, like the Bucs. I think their biggest thing is I don't know if they got significantly better. Like I said, they didn't necessarily get worse. Obviously, losing George Hill hurt, but they got DJ Augustine, they also had Bledsoe, but got Drew Holiday, brought in. I'm trying to think. They were going to bring in Bogdanovich, but then they kind of lost that one, so that hurts a little bit. Just because again, that was a part of their original plan to kind of tempt Giannis to stay in Milwaukee. But again, since that kind of fills out, that hurts a little bit. Lost Wesley Matthews too, obviously, which hurts. And then he was big for them not down the stretch, but just like during the playoffs or during the season in general, especially with that 3-point shooting. So I have to figure out that. But like I said, DJ Augustin's a solid backup. And I forget if they've made a couple other moves. But like I said, I don't know if they are significantly better, and that's kind of the problem. Is that they were good, but that wasn't good enough. And like I said, they make enough steps or make enough strides as a team and as a roster to be better than that. And like I said, I could argue that maybe they didn't. Like I said, you look at around the rest of the conference. Again, the Raptors, kind of going to wait and see with them. Obviously, they lost Ibaka, they lost Marcus Gasol, they brought back Van Vliet, which is important. Still have Pascal there, still have OG there, still have obviously Kyle Lowry there. Brought in Aaron Baines, who's not a bad center. And can, like I said, do a little shoot, can play a little defense, things like that. I think they also brought in Alex Len. That's whatever. But again, Aaron Baines is not a bad player. Again, I'm not going to say he's Marcus Gasol, but he's not a bad player. Like I said, they're not going to be that bad. The Celtics obviously lost Gordon Hayward. Like I said, I don't know how that's... well, I think their biggest thing will be their bench, because like I said, losing Gordon Hayward and then losing Cantor as well, that's a decent amount of playing time off your bench. Obviously, Hayward started for most of the year. And then Mark Smart was coming off the bench, but now he's going to have to start, you would think. So like I said, they're going to need to figure out how they're going to get production off their bench. At this point in time, I don't know if they really made too many additions there. They've got some subtractions, but again, maybe you open for guys like... Oh, they got Tristan Thompson, too. I forgot about that. So like I said, that's actually not bad. So that's a nice little Cantor replacement. Maybe he'll start and Tice will come off the bench. Like, I don't really... Just kind of see how that plays out when that happens. Like I said, you still got to figure out a way to place some of the production from Gordon Hayward. Like I said, the Pacers, I mean, they didn't really do a whole lot. They'll probably just still be playoff caliber, middle of the pack, team like that. Heat, like I said, another team that they didn't... they lost Crowder, so that definitely hurt because he was big for them over the course of the season. But again, got Avery Bradley, so maybe that helps mitigate some of that. At least, also signed Mo Harkless, brought Dragic back, which was big.
in my opinion, because, again, he was very vital to the team, was arguably their best player throughout different stretches of the playoffs. So, again, having him back is nice. Obviously drafted Achua, which should be a good fit. So, like I said, they didn't really take any steps back either. They didn't improve a great deal, but didn't take any steps back. Also, like I said, you go through the Sixers. They don't have Al Horford anymore, which should be an improvement, you would think. Obviously added more shooting with Danny Green and Steph Curry and guys like that. Like I said, the Maxey guy, they think, should be pretty good for them, and I think he should be pretty good for them. So like I said, they've definitely added to their team, which is, again, what they needed to do. They needed to put more shooting around Embiid and Simmons. And also, again, I forgot they added Dwight, too, as the backup center, and you saw he was very good in the playoffs last year. So if he's continuing to play that right role, then, again, that'll be big for the Sixers as well. Give somebody that could spell Embiid a little bit and not really lose too much there. And obviously, they got a new coach. Don't longer have Josh Richardson. The Mavs added Josh Richardson. I forgot about that. West didn't have a new coach, no more Brett Brown. We'll see if all the issues were just coach related, or if, like I said, it was player related, things like that. And also, we'll see kind of what Doc Rivers does, because, again, he's a guy that is, like I've talked about, is perennially underachieved based on the talent he's had on the roster. So we'll kind of see if that continues, or if, again, maybe he can get maybe he's a difference. Maybe he'll tap into Simmons and Embiid and then lock the best version of themselves, and then they'll play better, and then, now they're competing for a top three seed in the conference. Excuse me. Obviously, the Nets, that's the biggest wild card for out of every team in the conference, and every team in the league. Honestly, is like, what are the Nets going to look like? Because you got obviously Kyrie, they got McKady's going to be back healthy. Weren't able to get Serge, which would have been nice. We got Jeff Green instead. Still got Karras, so they didn't make the trade for Harden yet, assuming they don't. So still going to have Karras, still going to have Dinwiddie, still going to have Joe Harris, still going to have Jared Allen, DeAndre Jordan, Nick Claxton. So like I said, that's really the biggest question mark in like I said, in the East and in the league, is what do the Nets look like? Because if Kyrie is paired with an 80% and 85% KD, maybe even a 90%, because, again, you look at the way Breanna Stewart came back. Again, she's younger, but the way she came back from her Achilles injury, she didn't look like she was any worse for wear. So if KD can, like I said, be 90% of himself, that's better than maybe all but 5 players in the league, maybe even more. So like I said, that automatically catapults the Nets into top contender for a top seed in the East, which, again, they weren't at this year. So that's a big situation. And like everybody else, none of the other teams are like they might improve, but they're not going to be competing for like a top spot. The Hornets might be competing for like the 8th seed. The Magic will still be competing for the 8th seed. The Wizards obviously got John Wall back. It should be better. Atlanta's, like, again, brought in Gallo, brought in Bogdanovich, brought in Rondo, so then they should be competing, be a little bit better. Like I said, Detroit brought in Jamie Grant, so they'll try to be a little bit better. The Bulls, like, get new Billy Donovan, like, he's only ever been to the playoffs, so like you don't think, I don't know if it's going to be a rebuild per se, but like, you don't think he would not be wanting to compete. So like I said, there's other teams that will be competing, but not to the point where they'll be competing for the title. In the East, so I would say in the East, I still think you probably have to go with the field over the Bucs right now, only because, and I'm not saying that the Lakers are supremely better than everybody in the West, because I don't think they are like head and shoulders better. I just think they are on paper better right now. Like I said, I don't know if you could say the same thing for the Bucs. Like I said, are they probably the best team because they have been the last couple of years? Probably, but again, we got to see what the new pieces look like and how they fit in with the team. They should fit fine. Like Drew Holiday should fit fine. D. Augustine should fit fine. Things like that. But then you just got to see and make sure. Like I said, the Nets being a big wild card, what the Celtics look like will be a big wild card. Like I said, the Heat being a big wild card. What the Sixers look like with a better roster construction around Embiid and Simmons will be a big wild card. I think there's just too many wild cards in the East that you just don't know what they're going to look like to say for certain. Like, oh yeah, the Bucs are definitely better than them. Like I said, KD being 90% of himself completely changed the entire dynamic in the East, because now he's arguably the best player. Like I said, having the best player definitely makes you at least one of, if not the best team, generally speaking. So I said that alone changes the entire dynamic of the East if he's 85-90% of himself pre-injury. So like I said, there are just too many question marks in the East for me. Not that there aren't question marks in the West, but there's too many question marks, not only with the Bucs, but with everybody else for me to say definitively the Bucs are the best team, while the Lakers themselves have less question marks. Again, they got new pieces to try to work, but again, they had new pieces last year. Worked out fine. Again, those pieces are arguably better than they were last year, so you would think they'd be better, but again, you never know for certain. Let's say you don't know who's going to step up. And again, with the West, 13 of the 15 teams at least are going to be competitive this year, you would think. Like, every team outside of OKC, and again, those are only teams probably not going to at least try to be winning. Like, maybe the Kings will be kind of bad. The Wolves might still be bad again. But, all the 12 of the other teams are going to be trying to compete for the playoffs. And like I said, that's going to be very competitive in the West. So, again, that will probably help the field argument. But, again, the Lakers, I think, are just better than everybody else on paper right now. So, we'll see kind of how that plays out. But that's just my 2 cents on that. So, speaking of my 2 cents, after we come back, we will discuss the first college football playoff ranking and kind of where everybody's at, what it's looking like, the teams that I feel like maybe were too high, too low, things like that. We will discuss right after the break. So stay right there.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
First college football playoff ranking came out on Tuesday night, and like I said, the top 4 weren't really a surprise. The order might have been a bit of a surprise to some, because obviously a team with 1 loss was ranked higher than a team with no losses, though the team with no losses only played 4 games. So that definitely does hurt their case just a wee bit. But like I said, we won't go through the whole top 25, because like I said, in general, it doesn't really matter that much, but we will look at the top 15. So we'll start at 1 and work our way down. So we got Alabama at 1, makes sense. Notre Dame at 2, makes sense. Clemson was at 3, Ohio State at 4, and Texas A&M at 5. Now, like I said, Clemson being above Ohio State is interesting. Only because, again, obviously one team is undefeated, though Ohio State is only 0-4. Is only 4-0, excuse me. And, in fairness to them, this is probably the worst Ohio State team I've seen in, 5-6 years. Though, in fairness, the 2014 team that ended up winning the national title, they weren't even ranked, I think, in the top 10 in the initial college football playoff rankings. Because I guess they must have lost a game earlier in the season. I really don't remember. But I know they kind of just came on, and then they got it together, and obviously that was a team with Zeke and Joey Bosa and Cardell Smith. No. Cardell Jones, excuse me. I don't know why I said Smith. I obviously had JT Barrett before he got hurt. But then Cardell Jones and I'm trying to think, Michael Thomas was on that team. I'm trying to think, I assume Eli Apple must have been on that team. I think I said a lot. Von Bell maybe? I don't remember. A lot of NFL caliber players, let's just put it that way, were on that roster for Ohio State. So, like I said, not surprising they ended up winning it all, but still. It took them, like I said, they weren't even in the initial ranking. So, like I said, take all these with a grain of salt. But like I said, just the fact that Ohio State is undefeated, you would have thought maybe they'd at least get to 3, but I think you could argue that, like, with Trevor Lawrence, like, Clemson's probably a better team than Ohio State is right now, especially with that defense. Like I said, Ohio State's defense is not good. It's not, like, the worst defense I've ever seen. Like I said, they don't have the premier pass rusher. They went from Joey Bosa to Nick Bosa to Chase Young over the last, like, 5-6 years. They don't have that this year. Again, obviously not that they don't have high recruits and things like that, but they just don't have that feared pass rusher. The defense, and especially their secondary, leaves something to be desired. Like I said, they don't have like consensus first round picks all over the secondary this year. I said Sean Wade, who was a first round pick as a slot corner, is looking a little bit shaky on the outside, which again is hurting the pass defense in general. Like I said, their outside corners have been good recently. Obviously, Jeff Okudah and Arnett. And then going back to like Marshawn Lattimore and like I said, Eli Apple's first round pick. Like I said, they've had a lot of good corners over the last few years. And like I said, they don't have that this year. Like I said, their best corner, Sean Wade, has gotten exploited, you could say, from time to time. Obviously, he did have the big pick six against Indiana. Like I said, outside of that, his film against top flight receivers, you could argue, because I don't know if Freifogel or like Jahan Dotson are really like the cream of the crop at the receiver position heading into the draft. If assuming like, well, I don't know if Freifogel was a junior or senior, but I know Dotson's only like a junior, so he probably could return. I mean, but like I don't know if I would return if my numbers are good enough, because this pass offense, I don't know what it's going to look like. But yeah, that's a completely separate point. But yeah, like I'm saying, like his film has not been that great. So like I said, that's probably a part of the reason why you can be like, all right, yeah, we'll give you the top 4, but like also like you're not better than Clemson even if Trevor Lawrence isn't playing. I still think even with DJ, you could argue that Clemson is better than Ohio State, even though they do have the one loss. Just because Ohio State's schedule isn't even going to be that good this year. So yeah, like I said, it's going to be tough. But I said Texas A&M at 5 is interesting. And again, they're kind of stuck because unless Alabama loses, like they don't have a Florida chance. Like Florida's at 6, and that's a good spot for them because again, you win your division and you play Alabama in the SEC championship game and you win, boom, you're in. Like it's pretty self-explanatory there. I would think, mainly because Clemson and Notre Dame have to play each other again. One of those teams is going to have a loss. Like I said, if even though Florida does have a loss to Texas A&M, if they having wins against Georgia and Alabama and stuff like that on their resume, will probably be good for them. That like they'll be fine in terms of getting in. Like I said, Texas A&M is kind of on the outside looking in only because like again they have a win over Florida, but then their loss to Alabama, they got smoked bad. Like I said, they're kind of, and plus they got a couple games postponed too, which is kind of annoying for them. But not annoying because again, COVID. So like it's a serious reason why the games got canceled. But still, it's just like it's tough for them because they lost 2 games that could have padded their resume. I mean, neither of the teams are that good. I think they're playing Ole Miss and like Tennessee, so it's not that big. But like I said, since they already lost to Alabama, like they would need Alabama to lose like I think like twice to make the SEC championship game. And with, 3 games left, it's not really going to happen. Yeah, especially when they play. 2 games left. They play, well, assuming they don't reschedule the LSU game. They have Auburn and then Arkansas. 2 teams they should beat. So, like I said, Texas A&M's like kind of stuck at their 5 position. You would think, again, they need a couple of different people to lose. But yeah, like I said, Florida at 6, they're in a good spot. Like I said, you win the SEC championship game. As long as you win out the last couple games, you're in, you're good. You don't got to worry about that. Going through the rest of the top 10, you got Cincinnati at 7. Shout out to Cincinnati. Northwestern at 8. Georgia at 9. And then Miami at 10. So like I said, Florida, like they're probably about where they should be. And like I said, within good striking distance of getting into that top 4, which again is all you want to be. You want to be within striking distance so that if somebody above you slips up, then boom, you're right there. So like I said, Florida's in a good spot. Cincinnati, which again, they should be ranked as highly. But Cincinnati is also in a very good spot because, again, if they can win their conference, like win their last couple games and then win their conference, then they'll be in good shape just because they have teams above them that have to play each other. Like Notre Dame and Clemson most likely will have to play each other again. Florida and Alabama will have to play each other again. So I said that those are 2 guaranteed losses above them. And like I said, we'll see how it happens. But if the right circumstance, the right scenario happens, there's a chance that Cincinnati could sneak their way in, especially as long as they stay undefeated. Like, again, that's really what matters. And that's kind of how it comes down to for these non-Power 5 schools. You stay undefeated, then you have a shot. Like I said, maybe it won't matter. Maybe they'll end up putting in a 1-loss, whoever in, like it's 1-loss Notre Dame in, or like a 1-loss, say like Alabama loses, maybe they'll put a 1-loss Alabama in over them. And again, I would understand it. But again, at least all you can do is control what you can control. What you can control is winning all your games. Like I said, them being at 7 at least shows that the committee is like, hey, look, Cincinnati's pretty good this year. And so, like I said, if things break right above them, like I said, also you can pass up Texas A&M, or like because of the fact that they're not going to play in a conference championship game most likely, and you will. So, like I said, you'll put past them. So they're probably looking at a 5-6 finish most likely, which is unfortunate for them, just because of like the fact that they could go undefeated and still not get in, which I mean is not anything new. It happened to UCF a couple years ago, so it is what it is. But like I said, they're in good position. Northwestern, again, is also in good position because, again, if they finish the season undefeated, which they have 3 games left, they play Michigan State, who's not good, Minnesota, and then Illinois, and they finish those 2, and if they find a way to beat Ohio State, then they're in. Like I said, I guess, well, yeah, so even the teams below Cincinnati, obviously Northwestern's below them, but again, there's a lot of teams that have to play each other in the top 10 that Cincinnati does not have to worry about. So, again, that helps them. But again, they're also kind of just fighting for spots here because, like, SC champions probably going to get in, the AC champion is probably going to get in, and the Big Ten champion is probably going to get in, depending on, like, again, what happens over these next few weeks. So, like I said, that's 3 basically spots locked for whoever wins those championships. Now you got to figure, are you the 4th team? Like I said, win your games, you have a shot to be. Like you said, you lose 1 game, it's over. But like you win all your games, you have a shot. Like I said, depending on who that 1-loss team is, that is going to be fighting for that 4th seed with Cincinnati, assuming they win all their games. Like I said, that's a good spot for Northwestern. Shout out to them. They got a big win, as we talked about, against Wisconsin, and they are rewarded because of it. So that's pretty cool for them to be, like I said, be ranked in the top 10. Georgia, I guess it makes sense. Like I said, they're 5-2. They're really not in contention for anything. And Miami, same thing. They got smoked by Clemson. They're not going to be in the conference championship most likely, unless Clemson were to lose again, or Notre Dame were to I don't even think if Notre Dame lost it would really matter. But like I said, their chance at the AC championship is kind of slim. So like I said, they'll just be where they're at. Then 11 through 15, you got Oklahoma, you got Indiana. So like I said, shout out to them. You got Iowa State, you got BYU, and you got Oregon. Now, obviously, BYU was considered like the biggest snub. It was like, oh, how are they 14? How are they 14? Blah, blah, blah. And I agree, like they should be at least 10 to 12-ish. But again, their issue is just going to be the strength of schedule. Like, again, are they dominating the teams they're playing? Yes. But also, the teams they're playing kind of stink. So, it's kind of hard. I mean, it's tough because you can only play the people on your schedule, and the best team they played, at least in terms of like being ranked, was Boise State, and they smoked them. Was also going to be Army, which got postponed early in the season, which hurt. And then obviously the open week this week. Could have potentially played Washington. They had to put the whole thing up like, we'll play anybody, anytime, any place. And then they decided like, hey, we're not going to play Washington this week because of XYZ. And again, that just hurts them. And in terms of like, well, one, they're like that. Now I got to take back the whole tweet about them wanting to play anybody, anytime, any place. But also, it hurts them because, again, that's one more team that they could play to help pad their resume. Like I said, if that doesn't happen, their last game is against San Diego State. Like, that's not really going to do nothing for you. Like, at least Washington, in theory, like, again, that's a Power 5 school. It's a school that, again, has at least a little prestige, just in terms of, like, the football world. And they're also undefeated at the moment. So, like I said, that would be a quality game for them if they want to do it. And again, it's not till next weekend. So like I said, they have some time to make it up. They're going to do it this weekend because I don't think, because Washington's supposed to play, who are they supposed to play? Washington is supposed to
play, what was it, Utah this week? I think they're supposed to play Utah this week. And I forget if that game, like something happened where they were going to have an open spot, and BYU could have slid in, and they decided not to. And like I said, that could hurt them in the overall rankings. And then, like I said, the other team below them was Oregon, and that's just mainly because Oregon's looked a little shaky. Plus, they're only 3-0. It is what it is. They looked a little shaky, and the last two games obviously dominated Stanford. But again, it's a situation where if they win out and win the conference championship, they're probably not going to be able to make up enough ground to get into the playoff. But again, at least they'll have a good bowl game to play, and so that'd be cool. Like I said, I think because them being 15, I think USC is 18. Yeah, they're 18 right now. So the winner of those two will be the champion. But like I said, I don't think that'll be enough to propel them up, and even into probably maybe into the top 10, but not going to be anywhere close to the top 4, in my opinion. But again, that all depends on kind of what shakes out in front of them. So, like I said, want to touch on the top 15, just because those are teams that have a chance to actually make the playoff in theory. Let's talk about them. Like I said, you could argue Ohio State's maybe a spot too low. You could argue, obviously, BYU's a little low. You could argue maybe Georgia's a little bit higher than they should be with 2 losses already. Yeah, they're the only team in the top. Well, no, let me not say that. Iowa State as well. But, actually Oklahoma as well. So, scratch everything I was about to say. But yeah, you could argue maybe Georgia's a little too high, for their, based on what their record is. Obviously, they lost convincingly to Alabama and Florida, who were 2 top 10, top 6 teams. So again, not bad losses at any stretch, but again, they also lost. So, you don't get credit for losing to a good team in a close-ish game, and both those games are by double digits, so that doesn't help either. But again, like I said, you could argue a little bit of everything. This is only the initial ranking; it's not going to stay this way, most likely. Something's going to flip, something's going to change, somebody's going to move up some spots, move down some spots, so kind of see what happens when that happens. But as of right now, that's where the ranking was at, so I thought I would discuss it. So, normally because we're not going to have any shows we're not going to have another show on Friday because of Thanksgiving and everything. The good people here at GSMC Podcast Network gave me that podcast off, so I don't have to worry about that. But because of that, we won't have time to speak between now and the weekend games, on top of the fact that between now and the Thanksgiving Day games. So I thought I would preview the Thanksgiving Day games. Obviously, there's one game that's more important bigger than the rest of them. But again, the second game also kind of matters. The first game is kind of whatever. You guys get to see Deshaun Watson, which is kind of fun. So we'll talk about those, and then obviously the next segment we will do our normal preview of the weekend, including college football and pro. So we'll discuss those right after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
So, for the Thanksgiving Day games, the first one is Texans and the Lions. Fairly irrelevant for all parties involved, unless you, like myself, are a person that likes to watch Deshaun Watson play football. Because if you do,
then this is the game for you because Deshaun Watson has been sensational. Not sensational, but has been very good this year for a team that has not been very good. So many people don't really realize that. But he's at almost 3,000 yards, at over 2,800 yards, 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions on the season, a passer rating of 108.6, only been sacked 26 times, which again was low for him. Averaging 315 yards per game, 8.5 yards per attempt, completing almost 69% of his passes, which is pretty nice if I do say so myself. Will Fuller looked good. Brandon Cooks looked good. So again, I don't imagine a lot of you will have paid a lot of attention to the Texans. Not to say I had either. But if there's one thing to pay attention to, is the fact that Deshaun Watson is playing very well, even minus DeAndre Hopkins, which is again what people were worried about. But obviously not winning a whole lot of games, so that is what it is. But still, if you want to be able to watch Deshaun Watson do his thing, and it should be a good game for him because they'll be in Detroit, which means they're indoors and means no bad weather, things like that. So, like I said, if you are a person that likes to watch Deshaun Watson play football, that's just the game for you because then you can watch him probably light up a below average Lions defense. Sounds like fun to me. Or again, obviously, if you have fantasy implications on that game, whether you have I think Kenny Galladay might be back, DeAndre Swift might be back. We'll see about that. Matthew Stafford should play. Maybe you have Marvin Jones or whoever, Duke Johnson. Like I said, that would be the main reason why you'd be watching that game for either betting, which hey, look, if you're betting on the early game on Thanksgiving, more power to you. That's not something I would personally do. But that's mainly just because Cincinnati screwed me this weekend, and I'm still kind of upset about it. So, it is, bad beats happen to us all. Well, it is what it is. But yeah, like I said, if you're trying to watch some good quarterback play, which I imagine that Deshaun Watson will continue to have against the Lions, this is the game for you. But in terms of actual competitive matchups, things like that, important matchups, it's not really it. I don't know why people decided the Lions were a team that has to play on Thanksgiving every year, but here we are. So you got to find them an opponent because they can't just get smoked by the Packers or somebody every year on Thanksgiving. They got to try to make it interesting. And for whatever reason, they picked the Texans this year. Don't really know why, but it is what it is. The second game. Now, you would think a game between 3-7 teams would be bad, which it probably is going to be, and would not be of great importance. But the winner of that game will be the leader in the NFC East come Thursday night, Friday morning, however you want to word it. So this game is quite important for either of these teams if they want to win the division. Now, as we talked about earlier, I would argue that winning the NFC East this year is probably the worst thing a team could do given the draft implications. So, like I said, if we go to Handy Dandy Tankathon to look at their latest little mock draft situation with the draft order, correct? The last place team in the division, who was the Cowboys at this point in time, is currently picking 4th. The Washington football team is picking 5th, and the Giants are picking 7th as of today. Obviously, things may change over the weekend. The Eagles, who are currently in the lead for the division, are picking 19th. Now, quick math here. 19 is 12 spots away from 7. And then 14 and 15 spots away from 5 or 4, whichever one it could be, depending on where they end up. So, like I said, being just that swap will whoever out of Washington or the Cowboys wins the game. The loser will continue. I guess they'll still be at 4, and maybe they'll be at 3 technically because the Bengals haven't played yet. But the Bengals are going to lose most of their games, not all their games with Ryan Finley in there, I would think. So like I said, they'll probably stay at 4 this weekend. But like I said, the Eagles, assuming that they don't find a way to beat the Seahawks, which I guess technically they could do, but I don't know why you'd think that, will now be picking in the top 10. Probably somewhere around the 7-9 range, depending on what happens with those teams over the weekend. Like I said, the Giants should win because they play the Bengals. So like I said, there's a chance that they could have a top 7 pick. Like, that's for all these teams that are actually bad in the NFC East, which is, again, very evident by the fact that this is currently the worst division in arguably the history of pro football. All these teams could use a top 10 pick in order to help out whatever position. Like I said, the Washington football team may need to draft a quarterback, because I don't know if Alex Smith obviously not the future. So you got to figure out what you're doing outside of him. The Cowboys could use it to shore up some linebacker help, or like some offensive line help, or like I said, maybe if you want to get another outside corner, you could do that. Maybe like a pass rusher if you want to do that. So like I said, they got some holes. Obviously, the Giants, they could use a receiver. Probably use a second corner. Obviously, Bradbury, because he's been good, but outside of that, yeah. Probably could use a pass rusher, but I don't know if they'd take him at 7. Probably could still use O-line help depending on how high they get. And then the Eagles, I mean, they could use basically every position minus, like, well, no, but you're not bringing a running back that high. So minus running back and, like, defensive tackle, because they just spent a lot of money there. Like, every other position is legitimate, and, like, I guess, like, tight end. But, like, every position is, like, legitimately on the board. Like, wide receiver, O-line, I mean, quarterback, they're probably not going to take one because they took Hurts. But, again, if you're bad enough and you bring in a new coach, potentially if Doug gets fired, that could change some things. Like I said, O-line, receiver, quarterback, pass rush, linebacker, definitely, safety, corner. Like, again, like, most of the positions are available to them to be picked at whenever they pick. So, like I said, this win is important in a good way, as in it'll give you the lead in the division. But it's also important in a bad way, because if you win, then you drop yourself out of a top 5 potential pick. Which, again, like I said, the people are coaching for their jobs and their livelihood, so they're not going to be worried about that. But as a fan, one of these teams, you should be like, look, we don't want to win this division, because this division is sorry. We are sorry. All we're going to get out of this is the 19th pick and a first-round exit. Like, what is the benefit of doing that for the team that is clearly bad? Like I said, if someone wins the division with, like, 6 wins, like, and they end up with the 19th pick when they should have, like, a top 10 pick, like, I would be upset as a fan. I would be genuinely upset. Like, I imagine most fan bases are upset when, like, we win, like, a couple meaningless games at the end of the year to, like, drop from, like, 3 to, like, 7. Like, that's already annoying, because now, again, you're missing out on potential players. Like I said, now going from potentially top 5 to 19, like, no, that's terrible. I would not want it. I would not want that at all. So like I said, we'll see kind of who wants to win the division. Because like I said, I think it's probably going to end up being the Giants. But actually, take it back. I think it would be the Cowboys, only because their schedule is kind of weak. Like, the Giants' schedule is not that weak. The Eagles' schedule is obviously brutal, and they're also sorry. And Washington, I forget how bad or good their schedule is, but they're also Washington, so I don't know. I wouldn't expect them to win it. Like I said, the Cowboys, I thought, had the lightest schedule of the bunch heading into the final stretch of the season. And if Andy Dalton doesn't play terribly, could be possible. So like I said, that'll be an interesting one. You probably think the Cowboys would win, but also, like, they're not good enough to be guaranteed, like, you're sure of a win for them. But like I said, in theory, you would think they would win. At least on, like, paper and like things like that. And plus, it's at home. It's in Dallas. I'm pretty sure. So, like I said, you would think they would get the dub, but again, you never really know with these type of things. But yeah, like I said, that's an important game for a variety of reasons. Division reasons, draft reasons, like I said, everything in between. That is an important game, and which again is not something you would normally say, between 2, 3, and 7 teams on prime time. So that gives us to the nightcap, the big game of the day, obviously Ravens, Steelers. And, like, you're kind of assuming it happens only because they haven't really shut down games since the whole Titans fiasco. Like, again, there's still been positive cases. People have still been testing and things have come up and things like that. But there's been no, like, postponements or things like that. So there's no reason to believe that it'll continue. Again, you don't know. Obviously, you won't know. But it's a situation where, like, you would think that, like, yeah, if I'm the Ravens, I'm like, hey, like, we can postpone this to Sunday. Like, we don't need to play Thursday. Like I said, they have both running backs in terms of Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins. both on COVID list. I think Brandon Williams is still on the COVID list. Starting outside linebacker Pernell McPhee's on the COVID list. Like, their situation's bad in terms of what they're going to have. Like, you're not beating the Steelers with just Gus Edwards out the backfield. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, come on. The Steelers defense is too good. Their offense is, solid enough. Like, that's probably not, I'm not saying not. It's probably not going to happen. Probably not going to happen. So, like I said, if I'm the Ravens, I don't want to play this game at all on Thursday. Like, push it back to Sunday so we have a chance to maybe get some of these guys back. No guarantee, but you're not getting any of them back on Thursday. It's like the Niners game that one day when they had all their receivers out, and it was like, hey, maybe if it was Sunday they probably could have played, but they played Thursday, so hey, it is what it is. So like I said, that's kind of where I'd be at. That brings me to a different point, which is that the NFL got to do something about that COVID testing situation, because you can't keep having guys play and then test positive the next day. And it's happened to the Ravens before this as well. But again, it's happening a lot because they test the people the day of, but they don't get the results back to the day after. Seems kind of pointless. I mean, not pointless. Again, you still want to know so that they can take the necessary steps and things like that. But like I said, if you're gonna why play a game before you know if people are COVID positive? Now again, because that means that these people played positive on Sunday. But if this is from the Sunday test, that it comes out that they were positive, that means they played the whole game COVID positive Sunday, and that's just that seems very not bright to me, at least. Like I said, maybe I'm missing something, but it doesn't seem all that bright to just be having people out there playing with COVID, and then tell everybody the next day, hey, yeah, this guy had COVID, guys. That's cool. Hopefully everybody else stays all right because we're gonna keep playing and we're gonna keep getting this money, baby. That's kind of what the NFL is saying. And like I said, it doesn't seem that bright. They got to figure out another way to get these tests done quicker or at least earlier or something. Like I said, you can't have it so you play a full game, you're breathing on everybody, you're all up on the sideline, talking to people in people's faces, things like that. Then the next day you're like, oh, but I had COVID the whole time though. No. That would piss me off if I were a player. That's just me. But yeah. I mean, this is it's basically a must win for the Ravens. They're at 6-4 right now. If they want to have any shot of not even just winning the division, because they're probably not, just finishing second place in the division, so you're not on the outside of looking in the playoffs. You need to win this game. And like I said, with their offense kind of where it's at and the COVID situation the way it is, where they have to shut down the facility and everything, I'm not really sure how they're going to find a way to get this job done. And beat the Steelers. Especially if Lamar is not going to play that great. They're going to need a very, very good Lamar to beat the Steelers. And he was not that in the last game against the Steelers, and he also wasn't that last week against... Oh, who did they play? Oh, man, I don't remember who they played. Tennessee. Boom. He wasn't terrible, but he wasn't that great. So, and he wasn't that great the other week against the Colts either, at least in the first half. So, like I said... And it's not all his fault. The line is worse than it was last year. The receivers still aren't that good. Hollywood Brown is not really living to the hype, which is a part of the problem. Because they could have had DK or Terry McLaurin or whoever. But they chose not. They chose Hollywood Brown. You live and you learn, I guess. But yeah, so like I said, a full slate of Thanksgiving Day games. Like I said, the nightcap was definitely the most interesting of the group. But I said that Washington Dallas game has serious implications both on division and on draft order. So, like I said, from that standpoint, and to me at least, that makes it an interesting matchup. But again, we'll kind of see how those all go down when they take place on Thursday. Hopefully, you'll be able to watch with a full stomach and all and everything. Hopefully not too much family because COVID, but still enough family for it to feel close enough to a normal Thanksgiving. Obviously, it's not going to be a normal Thanksgiving, but close enough. Also, again, I guess what thoughts and prayers to I think it was the Cowboys strength and conditioning coach that had to get rushed to the hospital. So they have to they shut everything down on Tuesday. So that, like I said, that's unfortunate for Marcus Paul, who's rushed to the hospital for some sort of emergency. I guess kind of see what happens there. But like I said, that's very unfortunate for him and for the Cowboys. Hopefully he makes a full recovery in that regard. But after we come back here on the next break, we will discuss, like I said, the other NFL matches and some of the college matchups that I'll be looking forward to this weekend. So, like I said, stay right there. We'll be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and One Championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
We'll go Saturday and Sunday. So we'll start with the college football slate. Check through some of the interesting games there. First one that caught my eye was North Carolina and Notre Dame in North Carolina. Obviously, North Carolina isn't like that great, but they're 6-2, so they're solid. Notre Dame's obviously 8-0, trying to get that undefeated record. Heading into the ACC championship game against Clemson. And this is one where, like I said, not to say Notre Dame's on upset alert or anything like that, but like the North Carolina can put up some points. Granted, they give up some points, that's for certain. But they can put up points at the very least, so that is something you have to be mindful of and be aware of, because again, it's not going to be, generally speaking, not a situation where North Carolina's going to be held down offensively. Like I said, they lose games because they can't really keep up defensively, but offensively, like I said, they've been putting up points literally all year. Sam Howell's like a solid quarterback. Thought of maybe potentially be the number one quarterback off the board next year. Most, I guess we're going to see how true that is. But so far, the lowest they put up in a game is 26 points against Boston College. And back early in the season. I mean, they've put up 50 multiple times, including 59 last week. They put up 56 actually 3 times in their last 6 games. Or 56 plus, excuse me. And in the other games, they've put up 41, 48, and then 28 against Florida State. So, like I said, they got some bad losses in there. Like, that Florida State loss was kind of rough. But I think that was the one where Bucs were just dropping the ball. But they were down 31-3 at the time, too. Like, that was bad. And then they lost to Virginia as well, which isn't great. But again, Sam Howell doing his thing. 443, 4 touchdowns. Like I said, their defense just can't really get that many stops consistently. So that is going to be their problem, is can they slow down Notre Dame in that offense? Not that it's like that prolific, but again, it definitely can put up some points. So like I said, I'm not going to go as far as to say Notre Dame is on upset alert or anything like that. But like I said, in North Carolina, you never want to be too careful about these things, because Notre Dame has college football playoff aspirations. And with that, you're going to have to make sure that you win every game heading to the AC Championship game. And actually, let me take that back. Notre Dame's offense isn't that bad. Like, they're very solid. They put up 45. What was it, 2 weeks ago against Boston College. So they're not bad. But like I said, you want to be mindful if you're Notre Dame. Just make sure don't take this one lightly. But they didn't do it with Boston College, so you think after a bye they wouldn't as well. Other top 25 matchups are kind of shaky. Not gonna lie to you. Yeah, they're all kind of fairly shaky, honestly. No, but we got the Iron Bowl this weekend. Notre Dame versus Auburn. That's always fun. Even though Alabama's favored by 24.5. So that's not fun. But again, it's still Iron Bowl. You're still gonna watch it. What's that 3:30 CBS game? So again, you're still gonna watch it. It'll still be somewhat entertaining. But again, I don't expect Alabama to be on upset alert or anything like that. You also got in the Big 12, if you still care about the Big 12, Iowa State and Texas. One of the few matchups of 2 ranked teams this weekend. In Texas. Iowa State's 13 in the country. If they want to have any outside shot of at least sneaking into the top 10,
this is a game you probably got to win against a Texas team that isn't terrible, but also isn't great either. So, like I said, it's not a winnable game, but it's also in Texas, so you never can be too certain about these things. But yeah, like I said, that one's a noon kickoff game. Like I said, if you're looking for a decent matchup of ranked teams, that's one that's there. I'm trying to think what else is there in terms of like decent matchups. Not a whole lot. Let me look through some other stuff. Like I said, in terms of the ranked opponents, not really a whole lot. You got the battle of again, if you're looking of inept teams and like struggling universities. You got Penn State versus Michigan, in a battle for potentially, I don't think it's going to be for James Franklin's job, but I do think it could be for Harbaugh's job. They lose this one after almost losing to Rutgers last week. They lose this one to an 0-5 Penn State team that is reeling, to say the least. That would be bad. So, like I said, this game Michigan can't really afford to lose. And a game like Penn State needs to win to like get off the snide. Because like I said, they don't win this game, then it's like, when is their win coming? Because I said they still play Rutgers, they still play Michigan State. And Michigan State beat Michigan, and Rutgers took Michigan to, double overtime? Triple overtime? It was triple overtime. So, yeah. And also, they also have a win on the season, which Penn State does not. So, like I said, if they don't win this one, I don't know if they're going to win. They might go 0-8, which is a disaster for James Franklin. So, like I said, this is a battle of two universities that are struggling right now, definitely reeling and can't really afford to lose to the other one. So that'll make for some interesting chaos, if you will. Like I said, that's really it for the Big Ten. Let's see in the SEC. Any other interesting matchups? Not really. I guess you got Florida. Like Florida and Texas A&M just like continuing to see if they can be dominant against inferior competition. So that's kind of where we're at with them. It's like, hey, can they continue to do that? Let's see. Who's Cincinnati play this weekend? They play Temple, who is terrible. They are favored by 36 points. Never mind. But yeah, that Cincinnati UCF game, was very good last week. I hope you guys tried to tune in if you can. Again, unless you had money on it, because if you did, then you were upset like me when brother took a knee at the one, and they subsequently ran 2 plays, and not only did they not score, after trying to let them score, UCF decided they want to actually play defense this time. It was a very peculiar 4-play sequence, to say the least, to lose you money. So that's never fun. But yeah, not too many good games on the slate this weekend, but still, like I said, enough. I mean, it's college football. You can watch a lot of different teams and still be entertained. Actually, let me just check the Pac-12 real quick. Because I know, like I said, Oregon plays Oregon State, which is always a rivalry game, so that'll be interesting. USC plays undefeated Colorado. See if they can continue their undefeated season, like I said. Most likely chance for a big Pac-12 team to get into the playoff is them being undefeated into conference championship game, even though they're only playing 7 games. But if that's going to be the case, you're going to need both Oregon and USC to be undefeated at that point in time, so to maximize where they would be at and how good of a win it'll be, quote unquote. Like I said, so that'll be something to monitor if you're a person that's hoping for a Pac-12 school or someone else to sneak into that top 4. But yeah, like I said, decent slate of games this weekend. So now we go into the NFL side of things. Obviously, like I said, we talked about Thanksgiving Day games, big matchup would be the Titans-Colts, this time in Indianapolis. And then again, this one's for the division. Not officially, but like for the division lead with 5 games left. And obviously the Titans already lost to the Colts before. So it's kind of like the same things with the Seahawks, where like you need this win to like at least not be 2 games back effectively. Because like I said, if you lose both of these games, even if you guys end up tied, there's no way the Titans get in. At least through the division. Again, they have to go through the wild card, which is what you prefer not to do. But yeah, this will be a big one because their offense really didn't do a whole lot the last game, so it'll be interesting to see if that'll continue or if that was like more of a one-off, especially after seeing what happened with the Colts last week, where they kind of got lit up a little bit by Aaron Rodgers, though obviously Ryan Tannehill is not Aaron Rodgers. But again, they faced solid defenses and done well, the Titans have offensively. They said that first Colts game was just kind of interesting, especially since but again, it was kind of swung on the two special teams plays, so it is what it is. But yeah, like I said, very big game in the AFC South in terms of battle for the division, see who can come out on top. Like I said, both teams are 7-3, both teams are fighting for a playoff spot, both teams are fighting for the division, obviously, like I said, and this is a very big game, especially for the Titans. Like I said, they can't afford to get swept by the Colts, at least in my own personal estimation. Also, I guess we'll go to the early window first before we get into the late window, because we got some good ones in the late window. Well, I guess one good one and then one interesting one for the Sunday night game. So you also got Bills Chargers. This is interesting only because obviously, as we talked about, the Chargers are better than their 3-7 record indicates, and Justin Herbert is playing like maybe the best rookie quarterback of all time. Is on pace to, I think, smash like the rookie completions record, the rookie yards record, and the rookie touchdowns record if he like keeps up at the same pace, which is like hard to do, but he's been doing it for a while. So again, this will be a good game to see if he can continue that up, and also again see kind of where the Bills are at after I guess they had their bye last week, if I remember correctly. Yep, they had their bye after a tough loss to the Cardinals. So again, see kind of how they bounce back. They're still kind of reeling from that, or if they were able to put that behind them and push forward. You know, we still got a couple interesting matters. They still got to play the Steelers. Still got to play the Dolphins again. Still got to play the Patriots again, even though the Patriots aren't that good. So like I said, they still got some tough matchups down the stretch. And you want to kind of maximize your wins, especially when you know you're only a game up on the Dolphins. And even though you've already beat the Dolphins, which is a plus for you, still you play them again to the end of the season. So like I said, you don't want that game to come down to the division. You'd prefer to be have some cushion heading into that game. So like I said, that's a big one, just again to see how Justin Herbert does, and also see how the Bills come off their bye. If the defense continues to play a little bit better, or if again it's going to be the defense the last 2 weeks where they've given up. Well, the Seahawks defense is whatever, because they were scoring a lot of those points in a garbage time in the fourth. So that's a little bit more shaky to me. But yeah, that's just me. Like I said, the Cardinals game, their defense was not terrible, but also, like I said, not great. Let DeAndre Hopkins do what he wanted, and also let him catch the Hail Mary. So not good, to say the least. Well, yeah, that's another interesting one. Obviously, like I said, in the later window, you got Chiefs, Bucs, and this is a big one for the Bucs. Again, Chiefs, it is what it is. They can win, they can lose. It really doesn't make a difference. For the Bucs, it really matters because again, you have to continue to try to keep pace with the Saints, who will be playing who will the Saints be playing? They're playing the Broncos this weekend in Mile High, so got to deal with the altitude. But again, that's the team they should beat. And again, that'll be an interesting one. Just continue to see if the Taysom Hill experiment just continues to be a success, or if it again was a 1 week thing, or maybe it'll be a 2 week thing. We really don't know. In terms of how good it's going to be, obviously it's going to be in effect until Drew Brees comes back, or he throws 4 interceptions, whichever happens first. Like I said, with the Saints playing an inferior opponent, the Bucs kind of need to win against the Chiefs to keep pace in the division, and that's a lot easier said than done against the Chiefs. So yeah, that's gonna be an interesting one. Like I said, gonna be a tough one for the Bucs to try to continue to fight in that division and continue to fight to keep hope alive that a division title is still on the horizon. Like I said, another loss here, and it's basically all but done with 5 games left. It'll be very hard to overcome a 4-game deficit because you got swept by the Saints. So is that. And then the late game, you got Bears-Packers. This is a game that the Packers should win in theory. But again, we'll see if the bye week was good for the Bears, because again, their offense has been bad, to put it lightly. That's probably being a little favorable to the Bears, saying it's only been bad. But like I said, they changed play calls, and obviously he didn't really have a whole lot to implement his style of offense. I think Darryl Loggins before the bye. So like I said, hopefully during the bye they were able to look at some things, assess some things, and be like, hey, let's toss this, let's do more of this, let's do more of that, let's try some of this, let's try this thing or that thing. Like I said, hopefully that gives them some sort of juice, some sort of life in the offense, because right now it is abysmal, and it's hard to imagine it getting better unless, like I said, there's better play calling and better play out of the quarterback position and better play out of the offensive line, things like that. Because again, defense can only carry you but so far. It's going to be hard to do against a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, who knows the Bears defense that well, and also against a healthy Devontae Adams, who's, again, playing like one of the best receivers in the league. It's like I said, it's a big one for the Bears. They want to have a shot at making the playoffs. They're going to need to win as many games as they can. And like I said, this is their last, outside of the Packers, Week 17. We'll see if that matters. Like I said, they play the Lions, they play the Texans, they play the Vikings, they play the Jaguars. For, in theory, winnable games. In theory. Like I said, not necessarily it's going to happen. But again, in theory, those are 4 winnable games. So if you win this one too, that'll be a big, at least in cushion in case you drop one of those games. That'll be big. In my own personal opinion. But yeah, so as I said, interesting slate of NFL games as well. Definitely some matchups that I'm interested to see, some games I'm interested to see. But yeah, like I said, I mean, there's always interesting ones. Also, the Giants, they play in the Bengals. They have a shot to, one, obviously beat the Bengals, and 2, can still keep themselves within striking distance of the division as well. Like I said, everybody in the NFC East, as crazy as it sounds, because it's week 11. Is it week 11 or week 12? It is, in fact, week 12. So everybody in the division has 3 wins at the moment. So like I said, assuming the Eagles lose to the Seahawks on Monday night, which they probably will, there's a chance that 2 teams could have 4 wins. And now, like I said, they got a leg up on the rest of the division in terms of, like I said, potentially winning the division. And as we already discussed, winning the division in the NFC East is bad this year because it hurts you draft-wise, and now you get a worse player, in theory. But again, some teams are still getting, like I imagine Joe Judge, for as bad as the Giants have been the last few years, will be continuing to try to get these guys to play hard for the division. Cowboys, I mean, they just got enough offensive talent where they could do it. In Washington, I imagine they're going to try hard. I mean, with the Eagles, they're going to say they're going to try hard, but then you're going to see the same sloppiness and poor play as you see every other week. So it's hard to really buy into what they're selling if every week you hear the same, you hear things are going to be different, and everything stays exactly the same. Like I said, that could be a big win for the Giants. If they want to try to win the division, you should be able to beat the Bengals, especially when the rest of their schedule gets a little bit tougher after this one. Like I said, playing the Bengals, even though it's at home, playing the Bengals, at home for the Bengals. Playing the Bengals without Joe Burrow should be a win. Especially when they still got to play. They still got to play the Cardinals, they still got to play the Seahawks, they still got to play the Browns, they still got to play the Ravens, and have to play the Cowboys one more time. So, like I said, this might be the last game they could win. And like, at least on paper. I mean, they could probably beat the Cowboys week 17, but again, on paper, they shouldn't beat the Seahawks, they shouldn't beat the Cardinals, they shouldn't beat the Browns, they shouldn't beat the Ravens. See what happens, but on paper, that's how it looks. So again, this is a game you should win, and that'll get you to at least 4 wins, and you'll be, at the very least, tied atop the division, as opposed to being behind the Eagles, like everybody is at this point in time, which is, again, very sad to see. But it is what it is. So that'll do it for me here today on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. I want to thank you guys, as always, for listening to me talk about sports. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're on top of when we drop our latest stuff. Also, if you could please as well, give us a 5-star rating, write us a nice review. Very appreciated, very helpful. Also, what you guys like, what you guys dislike, the ways we can improve, all that fun stuff. And also, if you're on social media, we're on social media, so you can find us there: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss, talk about who you think the best team in the NFC is. Like we've been talking about for a while. It's really hard to say for certain who is and who isn't. Like I said, I think it's the Saints, but again, you ask somebody else, they may think it's the Rams. You ask somebody else, they may think it's still the Bucs. Somebody ask somebody else, they may think it's the Packers or the Seahawks or whoever.
Like I said, there's a lot of options, unfortunately, in the NFC. So because of that, you could, like I said, you got a lot of options to choose from when it comes to who the best team may be. Like I said, you want to talk about that? Do you want to talk about, like I said, do you think the Lakers? Would you take the Lakers or the field in the NBA as of this point right now? Obviously, things may change. Would you take the Bucs or the field in the? I think it's at the AFC in the Eastern Conference, or Western Conference for the Lakers, or in the Eastern Conference, would you take the Bucs or the field? Like I said, both valid arguments. Like again, for both the Lakers or the Bucs or the field in their respective conferences. Talk about how you feel about the first college football playoff ranking. You think they got it right? You think some teams are too low, too high, what have you? Also, again, just what games you're looking forward to this weekend in college football and in pro football, and also how you feel about Thanksgiving Day games. Obviously, the big game is the Ravens and the Steelers, and that might be the one game that might not get played. So that's unfortunate, but COVID gonna COVID. That's kind of where we're at. But yeah. Like I said, before I get out of here, as I always do, I want to make sure I shout out the essential workers that have been working tirelessly through the pandemic to make sure everybody's safe and as healthy as they can be. Especially, and they're doing it we're in conditions that may not be as safe as they should be, or we're doing it around people that may not be taking it as seriously as they should be, especially if you're like working in a grocery store or one of those retail stores or something like that. So like I said, that's annoying, but this is the country we live in at this point in time. So if you're a doctor, nurse, EMT, first responder, firefighter, like I said, postal service worker, grocery store worker, retail worker, anybody like that, dollar store, well, like I said, FedEx, UPS, Amazon, anybody like that has been deemed essential. If you've been deemed essential, thank you for your work. It has probably gone underappreciated during the pandemic, but like it's very important and very vital, and allows a lot of things to happen that would not be able to happen if not for the work of you people. So no one else appreciates you. I do. So there is that. Also, again, if you're still able to go to restaurants, I know some places are starting to close some things down. Especially indoor stuff. Like I said, if you're still able to go outdoors for dining or stuff like that, well, assuming you want to. Like if you don't want to, that's a complete separate point. That's fair. But if you do want to and you are able to, so tip your bartenders, tip your waiters, tip your waitresses nicely. As I said, it's going to be a rough winter for the service industry, the restaurant industry. It's going to be a rough winter for everybody, but like especially them because the chance that their business is going to get shut down again. So, like I said, while you still can, tip them generously. Again, assuming it's within your means. I'm not telling anybody to go above and beyond, but if you can, like I said, it'll probably go a long way for those people. So, like I said, do what you can. It'll be appreciated. Also, wear your mask. It's pretty simple. It's very easy for all of us to do, and it'll help, like, again, stop the spread and kind of hopefully control things wherever you live. But yeah, that'll do it from here today. I've been Chris Blades. That has been my time. And until next time. Also, because we won't be speaking between now and Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. Again, hopefully you're being safe and doing it, I don't know, I don't say cautiously, but like safely in terms of like not being around too many people. Like again, some people want to be around family, especially during a time like this, but like be smart about it. Like don't be in a house with like 50 people. Like that doesn't seem all that bright. Like I said, but if you want to hang out with like a couple family members, like still probably not the best. But again, you maybe could be able to distance things and do things a little bit safer as opposed to, again, if you got a crowded house, I would stay away from that. But again, everybody's going to do what they want to do at the end of the day. It is what it is. We're kind of stuck where we are as a country, and I don't know if it's going to get better anytime soon. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents. Like I said, just try to be safe. That's all I'm going to say. Just try to be safe. As safe as you can be during this Thanksgiving holiday. But again, happy Thanksgiving, everybody out there. So that'll do it for me today. I've been Chris Blades. That has been my time. And until next time, peace out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.